Orange basketball is officially underway in Syracuse for the first time since March. An exhibition as Daemen travels 2 hours east on I-90 to tip off in the Dome. Live inside the JMA Wireless Dome, I'm Riley Underwood, joined alongside my partner, Nico Horning. And before we can talk about this year, we got to talk about what transpired last year. And for the Orange, it was a mostly disappointing season. 12-18 overall, 6-12 in conference play, just not how they wanted to have it.
Well, a lot of the reasoning behind that is because of the loss of Deasia Fair from the years prior for Syracuse, losing one of the top players in arguably women's basketball and definitely the ACC. Fair was her absence was definitely known last year after leaving Syracuse with a little bit of a void in the scoring department. They turned to Georgia Woolley, to Sophie Burrows. They had some good seasons of their own, but overall the depth was not there for Syracuse, and Fair's absence was definitely known as Syracuse could not get off to a hot start at all.
Syracuse never went above 500 after its first game, and the woman in charge of this Syracuse team is still Felicia Leggett-Jack, entering her fourth season at the helm of the Orange, and she's had a couple successful seasons, especially the year before last, second in the ACC. It's been upward trajectory until last year, just an off year after losing Deasia Fair.
Year two was absolutely peak. ACC Coach of the Year, had that NCAA tournament win in the first round, and then last year was very rough. Admitted it publicly and challenged fan support as well with some poor attendance in the Dome, and everything just went downhill. So you're looking for a reset this year on a rebuild that brings in 8 new players, but there is some hope. 4 of the top 15 ACC players from last season are gone, and that can prove some opportunity for Syracuse to do some play in the ACC this season.
She's Syracuse through and through, a 3-time All-Big East selection when she was a player here at Syracuse. Her jersey is in the rafters. The all-time winningest coach at Buffalo with stops at Hofstra and Indiana before that. And her associate head coach, well, she's gone to bigger and better things. Kristen Sharkey left to become the head coach at Buffalo, so they have some new faces along that Orange bench. The new associate head coach comes over from Arizona State, where she was the head woman for 3 years. That's Natasha Adair. And another Sun Devil assistant comes over with her. Michaela Walker joins her as the new GM. Yeah, Nico, Syracuse women's basketball now has a general manager.
And you need it nowadays. Someone that can control sort of the NIL landscape, which is ever changing. It seems like every week there's something new in that space. Someone that can bring players out of the transfer portal, manage the scouting, the recruiting. So not only is Walker, the general manager, going to be a key member of some things that happen on the floor, but mainly off the floor. And then you have Natasha Adair, who actually coached Walker back at Wake Forest in 2009, 2010, and so these two players and coaches have had a lot of overlap in the last several of years, and now they get to meet here in Syracuse. Not to mention Adair's friendship with Coach Jack for the last 20 years. So it seems like a family reunion here in the Dome.
Adair, 7-47 in her 3 seasons in conference play at Arizona State. Felicia Leggett-Jack has been outspoken about needing that NIL support. Walker apparently is the woman that is going to give it to her. Let's talk about the departures. Even on an off year that Syracuse had, they lost 4 of their 5 starters, and one of those players that's a key departure is down low in the post, Isabel Varejão.
The Brazilian who spent the last 2 seasons with Syracuse was very, very good when healthy. Dealt with a lot of injuries during her couple of seasons, has that 6'4" presence in the paint, and then ran out of eligibility to not return this season. Varejão, very good in the paint, and she will be missed for Syracuse.
And then Georgia Woolley, the leading scorer last year for the Orange. 16 points per game, a leader and a true scorer at all 3 levels. Also shot 86% at the charity stripe. That always helps.
Definitely very, very good there at the free throw line. Top 3-point shooter for Syracuse. Led SU in scoring last year. Woolley was everything that Syracuse wanted to get out of after the departure of Deasia Fair.
And then Kyra Wood, the leading rebounder for this squad, and she was a post player that really brought the physicality when they needed it, and Syracuse was a team that lacked some physicality, especially when they got into ACC play. Kyra Wood was the player that gave it to them. Over 11 points per game for her. Now a grad student in the sports broadcasting program at Syracuse, but she's out of eligibility. 3 key players on your screen no longer with the Orange.
Well, if you know Wood and if you know Coach Jack, she's always looking for gritty players that'll dive on the floor, dive into the bench. That's someone they lose in Wood, but we'll see who they can get going into this season who can provide that stability.
Well, when you lose 4 of your 5 starters, you need some new players to come in, and Felicia Jack went out and got 8 new faces for this Orange squad. 4 of them freshmen, 4 of them from the transfer portal. 1 good freshman that's coming in with high expectations, Camden Nelson, the 4-star Connecticut Gatorade Player of the Year. She's expected to provide some valuable minutes coming off the bench in that point guard spot.
Nelson's going to be very viable this season. We'll see how some of those freshmen do with the minutes, but another one I'm looking at is Uche Izoje coming in from Japan, where she played a couple of seasons professionally overseas after being born in Nigeria. And the crazy thing is she comes into Syracuse as a 20-year-old freshman, starting her career here with the Orange. So we'll see how the freshmen fit in, but I'm really interested to see how the experienced veterans do that have transferred in here to Syracuse.
Izoje turning 21 years old on Saturday.
Crazy.
Not bad experience playing in Japan's top professional league, a 2-time All-Star in her 3 seasons there. And of course, the headliner for this transfer class is Layla Felia, and she has quite the interesting story because in her first 3 seasons at Michigan, she was a 2-time All-Big Ten selection, and she averaged 17 points in her last 2 seasons at Michigan. Just a great all-around player. Then she transfers to Texas. In the offseason, a detached retina injury derails that season. She plays just 9 games in limited minutes before they decide, hey, let's shut it down. She medically redshirts. Then she transfers over to Syracuse for her final season, and if she can stay healthy and if she can see the basket, it's going to look pretty good because she's a great shooter. She can score at all levels. Layla Felia is a player that they're really high on.
Well, unless you're Steph Curry, you do have to see the basket to make some shots, and Felia is someone who can provide a lot for Syracuse going into this year. One of the top transfers into the ACC and a big get for Coach Jack. The main question, Riley, is going to be how can Felia sort of establish herself not only as a leader but as a legitimate player for Syracuse, because she does have the experience from Michigan and Texas that you highlighted, but how is she going to take that lack of playing time to a starter level and see if she can perform here at the ACC?
Nico, you talked about what type of leader she will be. When you have so many new faces, you need some leaders, and this year it's going to be the 3 captains, Sophie Burrows, Layla Felia, and Dominique Darius. Dominique Darius is an interesting player. She averaged just over 3.5 points per game over her 4 years at UCLA and USC. She redshirted last year at Southern California. She wanted her degree, but knew she probably wasn't going to play. Now at Syracuse for her final year and emerging as a leader.
2-way guard, and again, someone that didn't see a whole lot of playing time and production after it dropped at USC before she played at, or rather after she played at UCLA. So someone that, again, has the talent, hasn't exactly played a whole lot the last couple of years, but can come to a place where she can fit in and potentially lead the Syracuse program this season.
Dominique Darius, the daughter of Syracuse legend on the football side, Donovan Darius, the All-American in the 90s, who had a lengthy NFL career as well. So she's Orange through and through as well. No better way for her to end her career as a college basketball player than to honor her father's legacy as the All-American, that he was a superstar for the Orange. And this wasn't the player's choice for these 3 captains. Felicia Jack said it was the player's choice. It wasn't her choice.
You know, the players select them. They're players selected, and that's a lot more potent, in my opinion, than a coach saying, oh, these are the people that's going to lead us. And, you know, and everybody got to kind of fall in line, but without 100% belief. But every single player only picked our captains, and they rose above them all. Why? Because they ran a mile and a half, and they ran a mile, and they did tremendous. They first ones in practice, they last the league. Come here at 10 o'clock at night, one of those guys are in the gym taking shots, and they're just winners. And they lead because that's who they are.
Sophie Burrows, the only second-year captain for the Orange, and she's the leading returning scorer, the only starter that returned from last year's squad, and she's a big-time player now in her junior season.
Longest tenured player on Syracuse, Sophie Burrows. This is going to be her team, at least to start with, and we expect for most of the season to lead and potentially be the leading scorer coming from Australia. And Also, the junior is the only player who averaged more than 5 points a game last season. Had a breakout year from distance, 41%. So Sophie Burrows going to be the one to lead this team, at least to start with. The question will be, how can she fit in with some of the other leaders to begin the year?
Second leading scorer for the Orange last year. She just trailed Georgia Woolley, her partner in crime. Burrows averaged 12 points per game, shot 41% from the field, and boy, can she shoot lights out from beyond the arc as well. 40% from the three.
Unbelievable, a true three-point threat for Syracuse. Woolley had that three-point threat as well, but Burrows also established her presence from distance last year, like we talked about, as the breakout. And last thing, Riley, is really the quicker this leadership aspect can get going for Syracuse, I think the better they'll perform on the court. That's why they have the exhibition and preseason games to get things going, because a lot of newcomers is not an easy thing to do from a coaching standpoint.
The guard, not a bad rebounder as well, over 5.5 rebounds per game. The only Orange to start all 30 games last year. Well, after this short break, we'll be taking a look at the opponent for Syracuse, the Daemen Wildcats. Well, the wait is over. Syracuse women's basketball is back in action. The Daemen Wildcats of Amherst, New York, the first test of the season for the Orange. Welcome into the JMA Wireless Dome. Riley Underwood alongside my partner, Nico Horning. And these are two teams that are not unfamiliar with each other. Just 364 days ago, Daemen and Syracuse squared off in the Dome. It ended in a lopsided defeat for the Orange, but it was the beginning of a very successful season for the Wildcats.
The Orange, first of all, absolutely had their offense going. Daemen, a very, very good team after that, 15-1 overall, en route to their fourth consecutive ECC championship, the East Coast Conference. This is a very good Daemen team in Division II, and they went on to do good things, so expect more of the same tonight from a very similar team that they had last year in comparison to Syracuse, who has 8 newcomers.
Daemen ended up winning their 6th straight conference championship. Came into the Division II NCAA tournament as a 2 seed. They got upset in the second round, but a very good defensive team, unlike this score would suggest, in the regular season, allowing just 56 points per game. And Daemen had a pretty balanced offense with 5 players pretty much evenly splitting their scoring, but in this one, it was all Orange, 90-50, the final score. The Orange come out on top in the exhibition.
And the Orange had a sizable lead at halftime, 32-point advantage. They dominated the glass as well. Kira Scott, Shai Hawkins, 16 points apiece. Kyra Wood, a double-double. So that was last year. These two teams obviously scoring off again tonight, and we'll see if Daemen can transcend things under some new leadership this season.
A 40-point victory for Syracuse. Nevaeh Buntley led Daemen in scoring with 15. She returns this year for the Orange. Kyra Wood dominated with a 16-point, 14-rebound double-double. 3 players with 16 points for the Orange. And that's shooting still. Not too much difference between these two squads, and it's a stat that wants to be vastly improved for both of these teams, but especially Syracuse when they're looking for these maybe inexperienced bigs that they have down low. The shooting will be a big factor.
The shooting is going to be something that Syracuse has to work with, especially with a lot of new players this year. The rebounding margin that you just saw on those stats, 33 more rebounds for Syracuse. That's something that they're missing a little bit going into the season. We mentioned earlier, no Varejao, and they are replacing a couple of other bigs there. We'll see how they get going early in the season for Syracuse.
Well, it's a new head coach in charge of the Daemen basketball program. Nate Butel takes over for Jennifer Banker, who lasted 9 successful seasons with the Wildcats. 6 straight conference championships, leading them to NCAA tournament appearances in each of those, and they're big shoes to fill. And he came on pretty late, Butel did, to this Wildcat squad.
He was named the head coach in September. Actually spent the summer as an assistant coach for the Buffalo women's basketball team and was in charge of some of their scouting and led some practices there. So not to, you work with a whole team in the summer and then you come into a completely new program, but that's what these coaches want to do, eventually work their way up to the top. Butel spent 13 seasons at the junior college level before taking over the Daemen program.
Yeah, he was the SUNY Niagara head coach, then became the assistant at Buffalo. That didn't last long. Then he became the head coach at Daemen in September. And September's pretty late to just be the head of a program, but lucky for him, he has 7 of his 8 leading scorers returning for this year.
Claire Pickett is one of them that will return for this Daemen squad. One of the main players from last year, now a senior forward, an East Coast Conference preseason player of the year. So someone that's going to be someone to watch out for at the Division II level. Also really good from distance, 34% last season, and a great complete player. Led the team in steals and blocks last year, second in scoring and rebounding.
Well, unfortunately for Coach Butel, Claire Pickett will not be available for this game. She's in a boot today. So the great rim protector, the leading block getter, will not be available in this exhibition against the Orange. She's the leading returning scorer. That's a big loss for this Daemen squad looking to muster an upset.
Pickett is set to be ready by the time the regular season comes around, but you want your main players to be available during the preseason games so that they can get their footing going as well. And for Pickett to not be able to go tonight, obviously a big miss for Daemen.
Now the player that steps up for Daemen, maybe Cecilia Lapertosa. She averaged just around 11 points a game, also nearly a double-double, 9 rebounds per game as well. That will be big for Daemen to get an advantage on the boards against Syracuse. Lapertosa, ECC tournament most outstanding player, and she's very efficient. Usually doesn't take too many bad shots as well.
Great player at the glass, the most rebounds in a single season in the Division II era for Daemen, almost 9 a game, and happens to be from the Whitesboro area here close to Syracuse. So Lapertosa is going to be the main figure tonight with Pickett out of the game, so expect a big presence there in the paint.
Lapertosa will be tested with the big height that Syracuse has. That's where she wants to be tested. She's a big forward for Daemen, a big for Daemen standards, not for Syracuse, just hovering around 6 foot.
And I will mention, Riley, that without Verajao, without some bigger players from last season that have left Syracuse, that is somewhere that Lapertosa has to be able to accomplish tonight. No Pickett, some Syracuse players that are not on the team anymore. Why don't you get going near the glass and try and crash the boards like she did last season?
Well, after the break, we'll be getting some insider information. We're talking to the sideline reporter for today's game. Sydney Kuye will join us to talk about all the new things that are happening with the program.
Let's welcome your Syracuse.
Well, the leaves are changing, and that means it's the beginning of hoop season in Central New York. Syracuse playing host to Daemen in its first and only exhibition of the season. Riley Underwood alongside Nico Horning in the JMA Wireless Dome. And now we're joined by the sideline reporter for tonight's game, Sydney Kuye. Sydney, thank you for joining us today. And I got to ask you, there's a lot of new faces on this team. Sophie Burrows, the only returner who scored more than 5 points a game for this Orange squad last year. Who are we going to see step up this season and today?
Well, one, thank you for having me. But when I hear that question, there are 2 names that automatically come to mind. Number 1 has to be guard Dominique Darius. She played coming out of high school at one of the top 5 recruits in the country. Then she had stints at UCLA and USC, and she didn't necessarily see that much playing time. But I can guarantee you, after talking to head coach Felicia Leggett-Jack, she said she will be utilized a lot more in this offensive scheme as the season goes on. Then the second player that comes to mind when I think, okay, who's been showing out in the offseason is Oyen Abalobala. She is played 3 seasons at Auburn, and now she's here as a center, and that is somebody that we definitely need going into the season, because last year when the 2025-2026 season, Syracuse ranked 14th overall when it came to boards, so they're definitely going to need a rim protector and somebody to be a dominant force in the paint.
Sydney, the Orange have a new associate head coach in Natasha Adair, and this is someone who looks to change some of the leadership aspects of this program. What are you seeing in that department heading into the season?
Well, Natasha Adair comes in with 15 years of head coaching experience herself. She had stints at Georgetown, Delaware, and at Arizona State, and there she was known for recruiting players. She was known for molding players, and it shows because 4 of her players were able to get drafted to the WNBA. So when you include that type of expertise, as well as head coach Felicia Leggett-Jack, they're going to be a 2-headed snake that no team is going to want to go against.
And another thing to watch out for, another newcomer, Uche Izoje, coming in from Japan where she played professionally. What impact can she make right away for Syracuse this season?
Well, Uche has a very interesting story in herself. She's originally from Nigeria, but for the past 7 years, she was actually raised in Japan. Then within that, she played for the Women's Basketball League, where she was not only Rookie of the Year, but she was a 2-time All-Star, especially given the fact that this Syracuse team had lost 2 of their forward and center. They're going to need people along with Big O to be dominant in the paint, and that's where Uche is going to come and impact this team.
All right, Sydney, thank you so much. Enjoy the game.
Thanks, guys.
Well, we're going to take one more very short break, and when we come back, we'll be finishing up our coverage here on the Cuse.com pregame show, Syracuse versus Daemen. We are just moments away from tip-off of the 2025-26 women's basketball season in Syracuse, New York. Riley Underwood alongside my partner, Nico Horning. And just to start off, I know preseason polls, we talk about them. We know they don't really impact the final standings, but it's always fun to speculate what's going to happen. And right now, the people are speculating the Syracuse going to finish 13th. They're picked 13th in the ACC preseason poll. Last season, they finished in a 3-way tie for 12th. Nico, your thoughts?
Something to look at, something to at least start with. So you mentioned it, 13th to begin the season with 8 newcomers for the Orange, and that'll be something that I think is why the rankings are so low, is obviously based on what they did last season, but also because of the rebuild factor that is here in Syracuse. The question will be, how quickly can the newcomers mesh for the Orange going into the season? Because if they do mesh maybe a little bit quicker than the 70 ACC media members think that the Orange will, this could be a better team. They got the talent, and they have a lot of experience coming in from different programs here to Syracuse.
Preseason, Duke is picked to finish atop the ACC. Now, Nico, I got to ask you, we got a game today, Daemen and Syracuse. Who are your players to watch in this exhibition?
Nevaeh Buntley is going to be the one to watch for Daemen. Led the team in points last season with 15. Also made 3 3-pointers out of 4 attempts for Daemen. So if Buntley can get going from outside the arc, Daemen could present a challenge for Daemen, or for Syracuse. And then for Syracuse, my player to watch, Uche Izoje, coming in from Japan. We've mentioned it over and over, she's played professionally there, a 20-year-old freshman. And if she can get going inside the paint going into this game, especially with Lapertosa's presence on the other end, she'll be the one that's going to be important for Syracuse.
This will be a fun game to watch, guys. That's all we have for the Cuse.com pregame show. For Riley Underwood, for Nico Horning, for our producer, Isabel Kelly, our director, Stephen Labovich, we will catch you post-game. Enjoy the game. Syracuse with a early 20-point lead, 53-33 to score. The Orange lead the Wildcats of Daemen at the end of half number 1. Welcome into the halftime show. Riley Underwood alongside Nico Horning, and so far it's been all Orange, but Daemen still putting up a little bit of a fight.
Daemen definitely had a better second quarter than they did first. The Orange came out running hot, and it was Layla Filia getting it done for Syracuse, as well as some other contributors, really getting out in transition, moving the ball fast. Daemen playing a little bit slower, but you got to be happy with the way Syracuse came out in the first half of the season.
The Orange a little over halfway to 100, so let's check out how they got to that point. Syracuse leading right now 53-33, and it all started because of number 5, and she looks like a PTP or prime-time player early. Layla Filia drains a 3.
Boy, such a smooth three-point shot from Filia, able to be a little versatile, and then that's where Syracuse dominated in that first half, was inside the paint.
Layla Filia was gunning them early, and she was hitting them as well, 2 for her first 3 from beyond the arc. That made it a 14-8 lead. Then a nice little dump pass to Uche Izoje to make it 16-8 Syracuse.
Izoje was also someone that got going in the second. Sophie Burrows with a three-pointer. The Orange were hitting really on all cylinders offensively.
How about this little pull-up, Jay? Nice shot. Jolene Raposo making a name for herself, her own highlight. Number 3 looked good at that point guard possession, and then the inbound play works to perfection. Nate Butel putting his hands up like, what is our defense doing?
Gotta love it. And then Izoje, again, a little spin around inside presence there. Syracuse, his interior was really, really strong in that first half.
Syracuse battling on the boards. They have a big advantage on that end, 35-17. But those three-pointers not falling as much as they'd like them to, just 25% in the first half.
That was the only nag for the Orange in that first half, was beyond the arc. They went 0 for it in the second quarter after a strong start from distance in the first, a couple of three-pointers from Filia. So that's one area I think Syracuse can improve on going into the second half, is getting a little bit more connected from distance.
And we weren't sure how this Texas transfer would perform for Syracuse.
Boy,
Layla Filia, she's looked really good so far against Daemen in this first exhibition. 12 points in 12 minutes, the majority of those coming in the first quarter. She's looked like an elite presence so far. I know we're playing against Daemen, but she's looked like the best player on the floor.
The way she can maneuver the offensive front and then find passes inside, not to mention her three-point shot, just very smooth catch and shoot, good hands on the basketball. She can do a little bit of everything. Nice mid-range there with the hook shot and flip inside the paint. So Layla Filia coming in after not much playing time at Texas, the injury last season with the eye, hence why she's wearing the glasses. But so far here in the exhibition, Filia has been playing really well. Look for her to get going in that second half as well.
A pair of assists so far for her, and she had a nice little dump pass inside the paint as well. 50% from the field. That's pretty efficient. That's exactly where you want to be. And another way that Syracuse has excelled so far in this one has been in the paint. Filia has been getting it done on the wing, on the edge, but it's been the paint presence as well that Syracuse has excelled at. 30 points in the paint to Daemen's 10 so far, and that's just because, first in part, Syracuse, the players are just much bigger, but also the physicality that was such a point of emphasis last year, and they're playing a little bit more physical today, and Daemen just not putting up much of a fight in the paint.
The size difference is very visible on the court, and it's going in Syracuse's favor, especially with Izoje doing a little bit of everything inside the paint. A great ball handler there in the Orange paint. And then Big O getting it done inside as well. The Orange have quite a bit of bigs that they can go to, and that's something we talked about in the pregame, was no Isa Verajao. They have Big O, and they have Izoje taking over on that front here going into the second half. They've proved that they can contend their own in that first half.
Big O, that's Oyendamola Akinbalawa, the transfer from Auburn. We were expecting her to play a big role at one of the big positions, and the big that's really showed out today, Uze Izoje, she's really showed out so far. The 20-year-old, about to turn 21 over the weekend, the freshman, has been showing out 5 for 6. She's just been too big. It was barbecue chicken in the paint early.
I mean, Filia was the consistent guard. Izoje was the consistent center. 11 points, very, very good at getting some of those shots to go in the paint. Physical, making it look easy out there, to be honest, and I think that's what you want out of your bigs from Syracuse this early in the season.
Oh, that's all for our first half of this halftime show. We'll have much more coverage after the break. We're going to be talking a little men's hoops. Syracuse in action against Buffalo for its first exhibition game. Stick with us. The first half of the first exhibition game for Syracuse and Daemen is done. Just 30 minutes to play, and 20 minutes to play, excuse me. I'm all tied up in football season. But
a lot of sports going on right now. I know Sports Equinox the other day as well.
Exactly. Sports Equinox and Syracuse men's basketball, another team in action over the weekend over in Buffalo. Izzy C has you covered on how that first exhibition went.
Thanks, Riley. In their disappointing 14-19 season last year, a big weakness for Syracuse men's basketball was their front court. In the offseason, that unit received a big boost with the return of Donnie Freeman. However, 2 guys have flown under the radar. William Kyle and Tyler Betsy may not be the biggest names, but they will still be vital to SU's success this year, and they showed that in the Orange's 76-66 exhibition win against Buffalo. Kyle ended up being the starting center for this game and finished with 10 points, 9 rebounds, and a block in 27 energetic minutes. He also had 5 offensive rebounds, consistently creating second-chance opportunities for SU. Betsy finished with 14 points in 20 minutes off the bench, including knocking down all 3 of his three-pointers. Freeman said during ACC Media Day that he felt Betsy would surprise some people this year because of his strong offseason. So far, so good for the sophomore. Both young big men didn't play a lot at their previous schools. Kyle played only 10 minutes per game at UCLA, while Betsy played 11 minutes per game at Cincinnati. However, both will have ample opportunity to prove themselves with SU this season. This year is set up to be a critical one for the Orange. This is a squad that is looking for a return to March Madness for the first time since 2021. In order to do that, they need consistency from their front court, and that starts with Kyle and Betsy. The Orange take the court again tomorrow night in an exhibition against Pace. Let's send it back to Riley and Nico at the Dome. Riley?
Thank you so much. Good stuff, Izzy. Men's basketball, they're coming off a disappointing season as well. Head coach Adrian Autry knows that this is a season that needs to be the season where the Orange turn it around.
Well, as Izzy talked about as well, seeing other players contribute right away, such as Betsy and Kyle, that's going to be all the more important going into this season. They rely a lot on J.J. Starling and Donnie Freeman. Starling had a bit of an off night the other day against Buffalo, and that's something they struggled with last year. When Starling wasn't playing well, they didn't have many other options to go to. Now you see other players stepping up in different roles, and when Starling does have an off night, it shows they can still get a 10-point win. So that's something I'm looking for in the preseason, and the Orange already showing more depth than last season.
And if that's not enough to get you to tune in, they also have a pair of exciting freshmen added to the roster, Sadiq White and Kyan Anthony. I don't know if do you recognize that last
Anthony?
name? Yeah. Yeah, he's on the team, and that should be an exciting freshman phenom pair to watch out for as well. Let's shift it back over to the women's side. The preseason AP poll came out, and there's a couple of ACC teams in that top 10, but sitting atop of it is the defending champions, Connecticut, earning that top spot in the preseason poll. Huskies haven't finished outside the top 25 since 1993.
UConn is the team to beat. You have Sarah Strong taking over for Paige Beckers this season. UCLA on there as well, who is coming off their first NCAA tournament Final Four for the first time. Layla Felia's former squad, Texas, and then Duke and NC State, the two ACC squads on there. So plenty to watch for women's basketball going into the season, and should be fun as always as it's right around the corner.
Duke was the team that was picked to finish atop the ACC in the preseason coaches poll. Syracuse has a couple of games ahead of it. This is the lone exhibition that the Orange will be playing. They're opening up their season next Tuesday against Stony Brook, and although these are non-conference games, these are crucial for the Orange to pick up early on.
Well, you got Stony Brook right off the bat, like you mentioned, and that's going to be the most important thing. One game at a time for Coach Jack's squad, I think, is the way to go. They lost to UAlbany last year, so a rebound game coming up in Game 2, and then Canisius and Wagner to round it out. And based on what I've seen already today, this team is going to have a good shot to get some early non-conference wins. We'll see if they can get it going from beyond the arc as well.
Definitely cannot overlook the Great Danes, who had a 3-point win last year inside the Dome. Nico, I want to ask you, who's your player that needs to keep up the good work they've been doing so far?
A lot of questions revolving around Layla Filia coming into the game today, and boy, did she show up in the first half. She should keep up going into the second half with 12 points for Filia. She got it going with a couple of three-pointers in the first quarter. Really doing it on all ends. A great offensive player, dishing the ball out as well. So looking for her to keep up her presence in that first half.
What about a player that maybe you were expecting a little more from entering this game that you'd like to see show up for the second half?
Dominique Darius would be one. Only 5 minutes in that first half that she played. 0 points, just 0 for 1 from the floor. So Darius, another transfer coming in from USC. We mentioned it in the pregame show. Not much playing time from her in the last couple of seasons, so I expect her to get going in that second half, and for her to gain some trust from Coach Jack, for her to enter her in the ball game and get some things going. Watch out for Darius to contribute a little bit more going forward.
And I know, Nico, the Orange are a much bigger team than the Wildcats in this game. Now, is this what you're expecting so far from the Syracuse bigs, or did you expect a little more, to be a little bit more physical, or you like what you're seeing?
I love what I'm seeing. Izoje, the freshman, the 20-year-old freshman coming in from Japan, has been astronomical so far for Syracuse. Pair that with Big O, and the Orange presence inside the paint has been very strong so far today. We mentioned it again. Verajao, no Verajao. Some other bigs are gone as well for Syracuse, and they have answered so far in that first half. I think they can continue that in the second half. But really the biggest thing, Riley, that I'm looking for going into the second half is if Syracuse can get things going from the three-point line. We saw a couple of early threes from Layla Filia, and then nothing else after that. So we'll see if they can keep that going forward.
Maybe Sophie Burrows. That was a name we were tossing around all before the game, the leading returning scorer, and she's usually a marksman from behind the arc. 98-62 the final in Syracuse as the Orange take down the Daemen Wildcats in their first and only exhibition game of the season. Welcome into the Dome, Riley Underwood alongside Nico Horning. It was a good game for Syracuse, a big-time exhibition win. And we have standing by the star of the game in her first game with Syracuse, Layla Filia. Layla, first off, congratulations on your first win as an Orange. I just want to ask you, what's the energy around this team? A lot of new faces, you included in that.
Yes, thank you so much. Definitely have a lot to work on. This was a great game for us and a great game for us to learn off of, but the energy is great. I feel like the girls, we're all open. We're open to just getting better, and we're ready to take on our next challenge.
And Layla, I know it's been an interesting journey for you as of late, undergoing a couple of eye surgeries and now having to deal with some new vision and wearing the goggles during the game. What has that adjustment been like playing today?
It's been great. I've adjusted pretty well to it, so gotten used to the goggles, so that's good.
Thank you so much, Layla. Enjoy it.
Yes, thank you.
17 points in 17 minutes for Layla, and she was just on one today.
She was, and she was hot early on with a couple of three-pointers that really set the tone for the Orange here in the Dome. And Filia getting that early start allowed Syracuse to get a good jump early on here in the Dome against Division II Daemen.
And we weren't sure what to expect from her. We were told she had limited vision in her peripheral, but it doesn't really matter if you can see the goal and your teammates straight forward ahead. She was rocking and rolling early on, gunslinging from beyond the arc, and they were going in all game long, finishing at all three levels. She had the vision as well, and her teammates were finding her straight away, bang from three. Filia was a star of the game today against Daemen in the exhibition.
Just a beautiful three-point shot and getting to her spot, knocking down shots. 17 points for her on the day, 50% mark from the floor. Just a statement performance from her really early on, and she'll look to carry this into non-conference play.
The Texas transfer, the second leading scorer today for Syracuse. We'll have even more coverage and all the highlights coming up after this short break. Syracuse takes the win. Syracuse finishes too shy of a Benjamin in their first exhibition matchup. 98-62 the score. The Orange take the win over the Daemen Wildcats. Welcome into the JMA Wireless Dome. Riley Underwood alongside my partner Nico Horning. And let's waste no time here. Let's get right into all the highlights of this one. And it was a lot of scoring from the Orange early and often. 54 points in the first half, and they didn't slow down in the second. And it all started out with the star transfer, Layla Filia, banging it in from three.
Her three-point stroke was very smooth, catch and release, on and on once again. Filia got this team going right off the bat.
Layla Filia, another one. She scored two of her first three three-pointers, and she was on all day long. Sophie Burrows, she splashed in a long one of her own, and then Daemen, the point guard, was playing nice. Jolene Raposo scoring a nice little pull-up J for two.
Raposo had a couple of nice points today, but Syracuse, every time Daemen did something, they were there to respond.
A little miscommunication on that one. That baby was ugly, but it went in for Kylie Chapman. That makes it 53-33. Syracuse leading at halftime, and then another one from Layla Filia.
Filia so good today from distance. Sophie Burrows also getting her feet wet from last year after 41% a season ago. Look for Burrows and Filia to be two of the top 3-point scorers this season.
Uche Izoje, just too big for the Wildcat defenders. She was dominant today in the paint. Nice athletic feed by Maddie Potts. Gets it out to her teammate, Camden Nelson. Nelson again, a nice drive, a little English off the glass for two.
Gotta love the freshman getting involved early on.
Angelica Velez bangs in a three of her own, and then she adds on a nice assist to add on at the end. Kira Scott on the fast break. That fast break points were killing the Wildcats all game long. Syracuse good at getting out in transition. One thing that sticks out to us on this, the rebound, 60-37, the total rebound margin. It was the offensive rebounds as well. Syracuse dominating on all facets of the glass.
That was the biggest question coming into the game today, was how Syracuse would do in the paint, and they answered that with a couple of the bigs, including Uche Izoje, who was responsible for some of those boards and really just that interior presence. But what sticks out to me as well is those three-pointers. Syracuse just 6 for 23. That's something they'll have to improve on going forward.
Uche Izoje, the 20-year-old freshman, was responsible for 3 of those boards. She was responsible for 19 of those points, though, in just 13 minutes. Very efficient as well. 9 for 11 from the field. They just couldn't stop her. It looked too easy down there for big number 44.
As good as Filia was today with 17, Izoje was much more even consistent on her end, because the ability to do a little fadeaway in the paint, create space, leap up, grab a pass, and put it up. It was all Izoje in the first and the second half, and she really, even though she had a good first half too, she had an even better second half getting to where she wanted. She was really, really good today for Syracuse and went 9 for 11 from the floor, which shows you the consistency that you want from your center going into the season.
Izoje capitalizing off her height. Now she's 6'3". That's 2 inches taller than any of the Daemen players. She's going to have to learn to play against bigger players in ACC play over in Japan. Those players also tend to be on the shorter side, but so far she looked very polished. Not just a big body in the paint, just putting up easy buckets. She also had a couple of nice fadeaways, little mid-range jumpers. She looked like an all-around a big presence in the paint.
It's going to be the toughest challenge for Izoje going into conference play, which is still many days away, but this is the time for her in the non-conference games, is to sort of size up against some mediocre-sized centers and get things going as far as the rhythm is concerned before you match up against some really, really tough ACC centers. But she's showed today that she's got the athleticism to do it.
Felicia Leggett-Jack will be happy about her performance. One thing she won't be so happy about, the missed three-point opportunities against Daemen. Syracuse shot just 26%. That's down from 32% last year, which isn't the greatest number, but 26%. You want to shoot better than that. I know it's the first game. You're getting back here adjusted to that depth perception in the dome. But if you're going to win games in the regular season, you got to shoot better than that.
Totally right. The Orange made the second fewest amount of three-pointers in the ACC last season. Wake Forest, the only team behind them. And that shows you that Syracuse, although the percentage was fine last year, they didn't make a whole lot of shots. Today they took a decent amount of shots, but they just couldn't knock them down. It's something that they got to work towards going forward, because if they shoot like this in conference play, things probably won't go as planned.
Not too many shots falling from behind the arc, but inside the painted area, that's where over half of their points came today. 54 points in the paint for Syracuse, and it was all because of Uche Izoje, and a couple of others getting in there as well. Layla Filia scoring on the inside, but Izoje just so dominant in the paint.
So smooth. This is where Syracuse really won the game. 45% from the floor. They had more than double Daemen's points inside the paint. Syracuse, if they can continue to dominate the paint for much of the season, I think they'll be better than that 13th place standing in the ACC preseason poll.
Kira Scott chipping in a couple of them. Yindamola Akinbalawa, Big O as they call her. She had a couple as well. The points in the paint were coming in bunches, and just a little over 20 for Daemen in this one. Syracuse just dominant. They had the bigger players. 4 players for Syracuse, bigger than the tallest player for Daemen. That's not something to get used to, but it's a bright spot that Syracuse can focus on going forward.
Definitely showed all game long was how much taller they were against some of those Daemen players, but if they can take that confidence into games going forward, including their home opener next week against Stony Brook, I think they'll be all right heading into the season.
Well, we'll take one last break before we wrap up our show. But right now, Syracuse, a big-time exhibition win, 98-62 over Daemen. Stick with us. Syracuse hoops are now in session. The first test and exhibition passed by the Orange, 98-62, the final. Thanks for sticking with us. Riley Underwood alongside Nico Horning, and it was a big win in the exhibition for the Orange, a big tune-up before they start regular season play. It's not the only Orange squad in action today, so we're going to send it over to Cadence Kilhoff in our studio for more updates on the women's ice hockey team.
Thanks, Riley. Winter sports season is finally here, and that doesn't just mean basketball. The Syracuse women's ice hockey season has begun, and the new faces have showed up for the Orange. Freshman goaltender Ava Drabeck has had quite the season so far. The Canadian was named Atlantic Hockey America Rookie of the Week when she helped the Orange sweep Delaware and earned her first collegiate shutout. Over the weekend, SU battled RIT, and the series ended 1-1. Between the two games, Drabic tallied 57 saves. After the Orange took Game 1, the Tigers entered Game 2 with a different game plan. RIT's offense hounded Drabic. Even finishing the game with a loss, the netminder was crucial for SU to have a chance at a comeback. So far this season, the rookie has played and started in 8 games. Drabic averages over 30 saves per game, which currently ranks 4th in the AHA. Her .924 save percentage also ranks in the top 5. The goaltender isn't the only freshman making her mark this season. 3 other notable first years have proven themselves on the rink. Jordan Bluin leads her class with 7 points this season, followed close behind by Emma Gennady with 6. In the defensive zone, Rachel Walsh has tallied 11 blocked shots. For the past 3 seasons, SU's win percentage has sat well under .500. With all the young players showing out this campaign, the future is looking bright for Syracuse hockey. Guys, back to you.
Thanks so much, Cadence. And, well, it didn't go the Orange's way this time today. They were faced off against the number 4 team in the country, Cornell. They fell 5-0, so they fall 1 game below .500, but plenty of time to get back on track for Syracuse.
They were also 5-0 on the road going into the game today as well, so first road loss of the season. This is definitely not by far, but their toughest test of the season. They also faced a 6th-ranked Quinnipiac team, and Minnesota Duluth ranked number 7th as well. So a couple of tough ranked opponents for Syracuse. Another loss today against Cornell, but those are just super, super tough teams to play against. We'll see what they can do going forward.
The road does get a little easier after this for Syracuse hockey. Not another ranked team on the schedule. They've already faced a couple of them, 3 ranked teams so far. That'll be it unless someone else jumps up on the rankings. Well, this won't be our last studio show. You won't be missing us for too long because we'll be right back tomorrow with coverage for the men's basketball exhibition. They're going up against Pace in the Dome. This is their 2nd exhibition game because they were on the road against Buffalo for the first one over the weekend. But this is the first men's basketball game at home in the Dome this year. Should be a fun team to watch, Nico.
Excited to get basketball back here in the Dome on the men's side, and they showed out in the exhibition as we talked about a little bit earlier. We'll see. I think the biggest thing tomorrow is if J.J. Starling can get going a little bit earlier on and a little bit more often during the game, because we saw some of the improved depth against Buffalo. That'll be really important for Syracuse to use this season.
First chance also to see Kyan Anthony in his white and orange threads home at the Dome, where Carmelo Anthony, you might know the name. I don't know if you heard of him.
I've heard of him. 2003 national champion, I believe.
Something like that, yeah.
I'm sure he'll be here in the Dome,
like
probably right behind us watching his son play a little bit.
Hall of Famer. Well, our pregame coverage starts 30 minutes before that tip-off, and I want to take it back to the women's game right now. Syracuse 98-62 win over Daemen. What are your final thoughts from this one, Nico?
Well, Syracuse showed early that the newcomers, I think, will be a legitimate piece for the Orange this season, including Layla Filia and a couple of the bigs that produced as well for Syracuse. So I think that is something they can rely on. Again, the three-point shooting is something that's got to get fixed going forward. They missed quite a bit of free throws as well. So plenty of things to work on. That's why it's an exhibition game, but overall, scoring almost 100 points, I don't think you're going to complain too much.
Well, Syracuse gets the win, still 0-0 in the official win-loss column. Their first game officially is next Tuesday versus Stony Brook at home in the Dome. Thank you for joining us. For Riley Underwood, Nico Horning, our producer Isabella Kelly, our director Stephen Labovich. Thank you for joining us. From deep, Sophie Burrows drains it. Take a look at that English. 98-62, Syracuse wins.